authentication for applications, and it's actually powered by Ethereum network. So that's how I got into blockchain. And on the side, so that's what I do in the daytime. At nighttime, I work on a community called Blockchain Ladies Club, and it's a community I'm building in public for women or those who identify as women to come together and break into the blockchain industry. So that's me.
I'll go next. I'm Camilla. I am from Toronto, Canada, and I lead the global community and marketing at Complex. I joined the team about a year ago. Almost a year ago, and I've been in the blockchain space for about almost 4 years. And one of the most interesting things why I came onto Complex was because of we're the only permissionless blockchain in China, and I thought that was going to be a very challenging and awesome opportunity to be part of, to bring that to the West and build up communities here and strengthen those relationships.
Yeah. So I'm Kim. I am head of global brand marketing at Complex. I work with Camilla. I've been in the blockchain space also for about 4 years. I've worked with 3 different projects, initially an Ethereum project, then another sort of next gen chain project, also based in China, and now Complex, which is headquartered in China, but we do have a headquarters in Toronto, Canada, and then we have a globally distributed team. And I think what interested me about joining Complex was also, just to echo what Camilla said, it's being the only regulatory compliant, permissionless public blockchain allowed to operate in China is a big deal for projects that want to get into China. There's a lot of these kind of initiatives that China has to bring projects like Ethereum and other major chains into China, but they are coming in as permissioned chains. And so being a permissionless public chain in China is a really good way for projects to enter the Asia market with some help from Complex, because our founders are very, very influential and tight with the Chinese government. And we have several research grants and endorsements from the Chinese government. So it makes it interesting. It also makes it very challenging to tell that story to the West, as you can imagine.
Cool. Hey, Max, Katie, and Juan, Diego, are you a little bit familiar with Bitcoin and this whole space? So Marcus, do you want to say a little bit, just an overview?
Yeah, I would love to. So Tina had asked, like, what is blockchain, and what is crypto, and what is Bitcoin or Ethereum, and how do they differ? So I'm just gonna give y'all like a quick overview of this. So starting from the beginning, blockchain, you can think of it as a decentralized form of data storage, aka a database that is append only. So we can only write to the database, and you can't update what you have already written to the database. And we say it's a decentralized database because decentralized means that there's no single authority that is controlling the database. It's run by a distributed network of computers, and each computer is run by a user who decided they wanted to volunteer to keep the blockchain running. So they have a copy of the database that they're running to keep the blockchain up. So as you can imagine, anybody can volunteer and run the blockchain. So there can be thousands of computers running the blockchain, which means the blockchain is super reliable because there's no central point of failure. To bring the blockchain network down, you're gonna have to bring down all of these computers. I'm using my fingers as computers analogy. So it's a decentralized database, and the data that we store to the database is pretty much a history of transactions. And this data has 2 key traits. One, it can never be changed, as I've already mentioned. People call this immutable or immutability. And then two, these transactions are public for everybody to see. So if I make a transaction on a blockchain, you will be able to see that transaction happen. So that is what a blockchain is. And I'm gonna just go to another term, which is cryptocurrency. So it is a digital currency with 4 key traits. One is that it has no central authority, kind of like how the US dollars are backed by the government. This cryptocurrencies aren't backed by any central authority like that. 2, it uses a decentralized system like blockchain to record transactions and to manage the supply of new units of crypto going into the system. 3, it relies on cryptography, which is pretty much like a secure means of sending and receiving messages by encrypting them. So it uses cryptography to prevent like bad actors from making any fraudulent transactions. And last key trait of crypto is that we can use, as a user, I can use it to pay for services or goods that accepts cryptocurrencies, or I can also invest in them. As you all know, you can see it in the market. So that is what cryptocurrencies are. So now I'm going to tie blockchain and crypto together by explaining what Bitcoin is. So Bitcoin is actually the first, well, first of all, if you have any questions, like something doesn't make sense, feel free to just throw it at me. But yeah, Bitcoin is actually the first ever cryptocurrency, and also the first ever cryptocurrency to use the blockchain technology. And it was created by Satoshi Nakamoto. And the most simple way to describe it is it's a new way of creating, holding, and sending money that would, I look at it, the value of it is that it wakes people up from the slumber of their own daily routine, and it changes the world because it promises to take power from the banks and the government and gives it back to the people with money. So people can have the freedom to control their own money. And yeah, so I can go into detail of how Bitcoin works, but I'm not going to because it's really long. But Bitcoin is currently the most valued cryptocurrency in the world. And the second most valued cryptocurrency is Ethereum. And I like to view Ethereum as like a successful test executed by Vitalik Buterin to push beyond Bitcoin's limits and see whether or not cryptocurrency can be used for more than just digital currencies, right? So just more than just like transferring of money. So as I mentioned before, Bitcoin is powered by blockchain technology, which is a decentralized database. And what Vitalik found, as well as other developers, is that the traits of blockchain, which is, it has no central point of failure, it cuts out intermediaries like banks and governments, and it's immutable, and you can't censor it. So these traits, he found, could benefit other applications besides money. And so that's why he built Ethereum, so that we can put other valuable assets like medical records or collectibles like NFTs, as we all have learned about, on the blockchain. So yeah, this is why Ethereum is more than just a digital currency. It's what you can consider a decentralized computer where others can build applications on top of that everybody can use. So it's kind of like the internet, right? Everybody can go to the internet and go to a website, but the only key difference is that nobody can take down the website unless everybody takes down all of the computers that are running the Ethereum network. Okay. So that's the whole spiel.
Really well said. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We recorded this, by the way. Sorry, yes, I recorded this. So
I'm gonna go take a drink of my kin now. And if you have questions, please let me know.
Thank you for that.
I can add a little bit to that. I think one of the things is there's an ideology behind blockchain that was started with Satoshi Nakamoto, which is no one knows who Satoshi is. So there's this added mystery of, is Satoshi a man, a woman? Satoshi holds all this Bitcoin. It's never been moved from a wallet. It's this very mysterious creator of Bitcoin. And it started in 2008 as a result of the banking collapse that happened. And it was essentially intended to be a peer-to-peer transfer of funds to eliminate banking. So it's trying to take the internet back to what it was when it very first started, before Google controlled all your information or Facebook controlled all your information. And it's also really about, so it's about ownership, it's about privacy, it's about, like, if I went to send Mary Chris, money through Venmo, Venmo knows all my information, Venmo knows all her information, that Venmo is the intermediary. On a blockchain application, I could just send her money. And it could be anonymous. So it's really about taking back privacy, taking back control from big banks. And it was a reaction to the big banking collapse, just context. And so as you can see, imagine that spawned a huge groundswell of passionate blockchain communities who were very, very heavily ingrained in the ideology of blockchain.
And just to add to that, I actually got my mom into crypto this year, as well as a lot of my girlfriends. And the way I explain to them how it works is be your own bank. You get to be your own bank. It's your money, you hold it. There's a saying in crypto where it's not your keys, not your coins, which means if you don't hold the keys, you don't own those coins. So it's very important to, I think one of the things is just having these chats like this today we're having is teaching the community about it. And people get to learn what it actually means to hold crypto and be in this community, because it's pretty amazing. There's a lot of amazing people. They're all here together for the same purpose and vision and what the future looks like.
With different end goals, probably.
Yeah.
But even in the 4 years that I've been in, it is night and day different. And Camilla, you probably have the same experience. The amount of technology, the amount of new players in the space, the growth and the rapid pace of the growth of the technology, it's hard to keep up with, honestly. And the amount of tokens that are out there is insane. I used to know every token that was out there. Now I look on trading sites, I see tokens, I have no idea what they are. And so, it's taken on a life of its own. And I think this past year with industrial investors and, Elon Musk tweeting about Bitcoin and Mark Cuban and everything, it's getting a lot more attention, for better or worse. But can I share my screen, Tina?
Yeah, sure. So I was going to invite you to share your presentation.
Okay.
Talking about specifically for communities and its main goal in driving clarity.
Okay. Go.
Yay.
Okay. Let's see. No matter how many times I do slideshow presentations, I can never find the start slideshow. There we go. Okay. All right. So feel free to stop me at any time if anyone has any questions. Okay. So hello, CMX. So Camilla and I are going to speak about what makes blockchain brands and communities unique, because you'll find there's some similarities to normal brands, normal communities, even more similarities to open source communities, but there are definitely some nuances that make blockchain a really unique animal. So like most brands in the space or blockchain projects, storytelling is the key. And the core tenet of any story is trust, especially so in the blockchain space. And also in blockchain, reputation is your currency. Your reputation can make or break a project. And once you lose that reputation, it's very hard to recover from. And that's probably true with normal brands and normal communities as well. Blockchain is less forgiving, I think. And Mara, Chris, you can jump in if you object to any of these or you anything to add. In the blockchain space, projects have to prove that they're for real. So you have sort of the granddaddy Bitcoin, and then you have Ethereum, and those are sort of the big two. And there's limitations with both. So Bitcoin has really become a store of value, an asset to keep, to store, to trade for long-term value. It's replaced gold, right? People call it digital gold. Ethereum has a smart contract layer that Bitcoin doesn't really have that allows you to do quite a lot more. But they both have limitations, scalability limitations, how many transactions they can process in a second, how much can be stored on the chain. I don't know if any of you remember CryptoKitties, if that sounds familiar, but a few years ago, a little kitty NFT game launched called CryptoKitties, and it crashed the Ethereum network because Ethereum was not able to scale to handle the volume of transactions. So since Ethereum and Bitcoin are kind of like the big two, there's been probably, gosh, hundreds of what we call next gen chains that have come out, all as a lot of people like to position them as challengers to Ethereum. But at the end of the day, they all sort of are starting to function as a different purpose. And I don't think it's going to be a one blockchain world. It'll be a multi-blockchain world, and each blockchain will have a different specialty. Not all the projects that are out there today will survive. Not all the tokens that are there today will still be around probably in even 6 months. But just so you kind of understand the framing of Bitcoin and Ethereum as sort of having the most diehard sort of, they're referred to as maximalists. You're a Bitcoin maximalist or you're an Ethereum maximalist. And it's a passion and an advocacy for a brand, brand being the blockchain, that I have never seen anywhere. Like the closest would probably be when Steve Jobs was running Apple. It's definitely it's almost like a religious passion that they have. So in the blockchain space, you have to really prove that you're for real. And there's some tactical things, right, that especially the developer audience in the blockchain space will check you out. You have to pass the sniff test, right? In other words, so, do you have code on GitHub? Are there tutorials? What's your token utility? How long have they been around? Has their mainnet launched? There's all these sort of little check things for the newer projects that are coming out. And then everything outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum tends to be lumped as a shitcoin. And so that's a lot of times you'll see that in the trading channels, even chains and projects that are very well respected and very well known and have a huge thriving community, their coins will be referred to as a shitcoin. So to kind of prove you're not a shitcoin, which means you're going to pump and dump and you're going to go away in a few months, you really have to demonstrate those core values of the blockchain community. And that goes way back to sort of the Satoshi white paper from 2008 and this whole like cypherpunk movement that really pushed this almost anarchist against the government having any involvement, and really pro people owning their information, having their privacy, that type of thing. And then you have to prove, are you creating something valuable, right? Because a lot of projects will reinvent the wheel just for the sake of reinventing the wheel. And sometimes you just don't have to do that. So there's a lot of projects iterating on top of Bitcoin, iterating on top of what Ethereum has done to create something more scalable or something with faster transaction speeds. And are you integrated in the community? I think the community, blockchain is one of the spaces where the community is the most important element in the success of the project. And Camilla, I don't know if you want to speak to that, but it is, I've worked outside my pre-blockchain life. I worked in traditional marketing for 10 years, and I've never seen anything like the level of community ownership and involvement that I've seen in blockchain.
Absolutely. Kim just nailed it there. 100%. And if Kim, if you just go to the next slide, I think the next slide actually, something I wanted to touch on, which is really important, that in blockchain, the community, the users and the stakeholders are one and the same. It's very different in a community. You know, if you're running a community, like a gaming community, here in blockchain, people that invest in the token are the stakeholders. They are very engaged. They have a lot of say in what your project, they can make or break your project. That is who they are. So it's really important the way you communicate to that community. You have to always be on it, and you have to be very transparent with the blockchain community, because again, they're the investors, the users, the people that will market for you. You count on them to bring the project up. It's a very different type of way to look at your community when you think of them as your investors. Like every single person that owns a token, they're an investor to your company and to your community.
Right. And no matter how passionate they might be about your technology, when your token price drops, you will hear about it on Discord or Telegram or so there's an element of the money definitely plays an element in everything. But like to Camilla's point, they care about transparency. They care about leadership. Who's leading the project? What's their pedigree? What other projects have they worked on? Did they co-found Ethereum with Vitalik? And transparency, they literally want access, visibility to everything about the project. How many tokens are the founders holding? What are the token wallet addresses? So we can go on to, you know, Etherscan or whatever, and we can verify that they're holding those tokens and they're not, you know, pumping them into the market. The very first project I worked for was an Ethereum project, and that was the most hardcore for transparency. And Chris, I don't know if you have the same experience because you're working for an Ethereum project, but they wanted to literally share everything, our salaries. They wanted to open up and share all of our internal Slack communication with the community. I mean, they were taking transparency to like the next level. Like, and as the marketing team was literally freaking out about that, saying like, we cannot share our internal Slack conversations with the general public. Like, that's not an ideal scenario. So there's a point where you have to kind of temper that idealism to check off on all these blockchain values, transparency being one of them, and say what's realistic to share. And then governance, which is they want to vote and a say in everything that your project does. And we just had a governance vote. Come on, I don't know if you want to talk about the token release.
The allocation token, yes. So one of the things about the community is, like Kim mentioned, they're very vocal. So of course, because they are investors, they associate themselves, and they are investors and stakeholders. They want to have a say in things that are happening in the company. And one of the things that recently occurred in Conflux was the release of investor tokens early, and there was a clause in our white paper that brought that up, that investor tokens would be released at a certain, if investors requested to have their tokens released earlier, and they can have that approved. And the community didn't like that, so we ended up putting into a governance vote. And of course, the community voted no, they should not be allowed to get their tokens released early, which I think is absolutely fair.
Yeah.
And so that caused a ruckus, but it's about giving that community a voice. And because they're investing in token, to allow them to be able to make decisions for the company. And that's where the stakeholders part comes in.
You do have to hold a token or a certain token amount to be able to vote, or to suggest a topic for a vote, or to vote, I believe. But it was overwhelming. It was 96% of our community voted do not let private investors have access to their tokens on an early withdrawal basis, because when our price pumped, they wanted their tokens, of course, so that they could sell them, and then our price dumps. And because, not just because we're a China chain, price volatility is never that desirable, but because we did not do an ICO, because China doesn't allow them, we did that deliberately we did that deliberately to remain regulatory compliant. And an ICO is almost like an IPO for stock. It's an initial coin offering. Every other chain in China has done one. We did not. And so the fluctuation of our token price, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, will actually call our founder and say, you need to stabilize your token price. So this was kind of a part of doing that, but also giving the community a chance to weigh in on the governance. So you can see that there's a lot of like nuances and layers, but the community does have a lot of control. And it's because their financial incentives are tied to the project. You know, like Camilla said, they're essentially owners, stakeholders. What happens to the token impacts them greatly.
Yeah.
And then you get to sort of the belief system. And so some people are there for the token, definitely. Our community is, you know, comprised of a wide mix of people, but there's some people that are there because they believe in the technology. And if you look at blockchain stories, you know, it almost is like a religion. It has its own lexicon. You know, there are words that are very exclusive to the blockchain community, like some of the words I put below. You know, decentralized finance, centralized finance, Buildle means build, you know, dApps is decentralized apps, DEX is a decentralized exchange. And there's all these, there's so many things that are unique to the blockchain space that you kind of have to go through that learning curve to understand it. And blockchain has its own profits. And Marcus, you'll like this picture of Vitalik in the bottom right. But blockchain developers, especially the ones that have been there from the beginning, or at least from the early days of Ethereum, you know, this one comment from a blockchain developer is actually, you know, very on point. You know, they're these like alien genius God figures, and they're in this group together, and they have these super intellectual debates on, you know, architectural concepts of different chains and what will be scalable. And, you know, and it is almost like the founding fathers writing the rules. I mean, it is taken that seriously, and it's that level of passion. And then also you have characters on Twitter, like you have Bitcoin Jesus, there's an Ethereum Jesus, and then this is the founder of Ethereum, whoops, and he is probably the closest thing outside of Satoshi to a prophet. When, you know, if you're at an event and Vitalik shows up, everything literally stops. Everyone wants a selfie with Vitalik. It's just, it's incredible. And I think he discovered Ethereum when he was like 19 or something. And he might be like Russian or Ukrainian, Canadian mix or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's from around Toronto area. Like, well, he's from Ontario here. And so he's very well known here. But you know, around the world globally, you know, he's just like Kim described. He is described as like a god figure. Like
he is, yeah. And then you have relics, right? And so there's a little excerpt from the Satoshi Nakamoto white paper that explains what Bitcoin is. This was the birth of Bitcoin. It started as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, removing banks, which was the #1 goal. And this is very true. When you meet people in the space, they'll either tell you the year they read the Satoshi white paper or the year that they started in blockchain. And everyone refers to being in the blockchain space as going down the rabbit hole. You will hear everyone say that to you because it is literally like the, you know, in the Matrix, like the red pill or the blue pill. It is literally like that. And that's how it's viewed by the community. Oops, I'm going backwards. And then faith, right? It's a technology that was largely unproven, and until this past year, didn't really get much attention from traditional media or institutional investors. And so, it is almost thought of as a religion because a lot of people that are participating in it don't necessarily even understand how it works, right? Um, Especially with so many new chains and new technologies, there's always that question of how does it work? So you have faith that you're building something. Um, and so this brings us to who is our community. And Camilla can talk about this, but just to say that, like, to tee it up for her, like, our community is so diverse. We have miners who mine our token. Um, and we have investors who invest. We have speculators who trade our token purely just for, they don't even care what our project is or what the technology is. We have developers who hopefully will build on our platform. And then you have sort of your evangelists, advocates who think your chain in particular has some kind of unique technology. And so they're willing to sort of be your sort of boots on the ground, grassroots community builder. There's a project called Chainlink, and their community is referred to as the Link Marines because they are very passionate and like very vocal.
Yeah, and bringing back to Kim on the slide that she's on, the community they have a lot of great traits. So a lot of the people in the community in the blockchain space and crypto space are problem solvers. So people that want to help make something better. They see a better future out there. They see that there's something wrong with the current system right now, for example, the financial system, and they want to solve and make it better. So we have problem solvers. Those are we have entrepreneurs, people really that not only start their own projects in the crypto space, but also, to me, anybody that kind of holds a token is kind of an entrepreneur. They're their own, like I said earlier, a bank, and they want to help solve problems. And then you have they're idealistic. So like I was mentioning, it's about the biggest thing, especially during COVID last year, what brought crypto into really in the upfront is about the whole entire financial system, what was happening around the world, and people not being able to, get funding from the government. And it brought crypto into such a huge positive light of what you can do, owning your own money, not having to depend on the government to help you. That was huge. Businesses were losing money. So this is it's almost like a revolution. And I think what we're going to see, this was the start of something that's going to be even bigger. The next 10 years are going to change, I think, drastically. Mm-hmm. And we're going to see a big shift of what's happening in the crypto and financial system. And this is just the start of what we experience. This is just the start. And, oh, sorry,
yeah, sorry.
And then we, of course, have the skeptics. So people that believe it, but it's almost having one foot in and one foot out. Like they believe it, but then they're also skeptical. You have a lot of people that are having a lot of FOMO right now, which is, why didn't I invest earlier? Or, like I get calls from friends all the time. I even had yesterday, somebody reached out to me. They're like, what do you think of this? If I invested this much, I would have been this much richer. And it's you have those skeptics that want to believe it, but also don't want to wait sometimes, because look how long it took Bitcoin to get to where it is when it came out in 2008. And now we're at, what is it, 58,000, 60? I don't even know what it is at today.
Yeah. And everybody has a story about how they could have bought Bitcoin at $2 or $3. So then,
yes.
And then masochists. I think we're all masochists. Americans, I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like everyone who works in the blockchain space is a little bit of a masochist because it is punishing and there's not a lot of payoff. And you go through these periods of, you go through these bear markets, bull markets that are much more exaggerated than anything the stock market can throw at you. And then you go through these periods called crypto winter, where everything just kind of dies back. And, the diehards will start, buying while prices are low. But you start to question, is Bitcoin going to go to zero? Is it going to be you start questioning it. And so, I think like this one quote says, someone who's a typical early adopter is someone who's willing to put up pain because you truly believe in the technology. And I think regardless of like what chain you support, there is a lot of tribalism. There is this sense of a win for one is a win for all, because they all have that same underlying belief that we're on the cusp, literally, of changing the economic system of the world, supply chain, how health records are stored, how people are able to protect and own their privacy, so there's no data leaks and there's no data breaches by Facebook and things like that. And so our challenge as brand and community builders is to capture kind of all of that spirit that exists in the blockchain community without overselling it, because they have a very, very sensitive bullshit detector, and you can't market to them, and you can't, it's almost like traditional community building techniques don't necessarily work that well on them, because you have to tap into both the passion for the technology, and explain your project to them and get them on board. So Camilla, I don't know if you want to talk about like community, but
yes. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on an interesting point about the difference between, let's say, building a community. I'm just going to bring up Apple for a second. You have a community of people that love Apple and love Apple products, and but it's a different type of community. They're not like chatting with each other on the computer and communicating with each other. But in blockchain space, in the crypto space, you have to be communicating with your community daily. And that means giving them transparency, speaking with them, getting to know them. They love to hear from the founders. Now, we even have our founder on Discord, giving that access. Imagine Steve Jobs being on Discord. Like, that would not happen. But in the blockchain crypto space, that's almost like we tell our founder, like, we want you to be out there. The community wants to get to know you. It's just a very different type of relationship you have. And it makes people believe in the project more, because they get to know the founders on a very, on a personal almost level as who they are, and they're building this. Because again, it goes back to the people in our community are stakeholders. They want to know, who am I investing in? What is this project? What are you building? What is the technology that you've built? It's a very different job we have to do. And I know Kim and I, this is a daily battle Kim and I go through every day. And I know Mary Chris is probably you as well, as a developer evangelist. I think you'll have some interesting insight in community development when it comes to the blockchain space.
Yeah. But I think blockchain community, they definitely feel like they own your project, which is very different sense, I think, than any other community outside of blockchain that I've ever worked for. So that's it.
And sorry, just to touch on that, the community is even ballsy enough to ask you, what are your plans for marketing? Why are we not marketing? They will come to you and say, why are we not marketing here? Why are we not doing this? Like, that's how, like, they're very involved. And what's great also is that they come to you with ideas. So they're like, I think there's a great opportunity, let's say, for Conflux to be in Brazil. I want to start a community. It's very cool to have that to people around the world that want to go and start creating communities for you and bringing people into people that value what you're doing, and build that out. I think it's a very interesting concept.
sorry, we ate up a lot of time with that, but I don't
I
know if
know.
anyone has any question, or if Mary Chris, if you want to add anything to that, like from a dev evangelist or dev community. Dev community is the toughest nut to crack, I think, honestly.
I just have to say that was one of the best presentations I've seen about blockchain so
Oh,
far. That was amazing. Every single slide it just resonated with me as a person in the blockchain industry. I do wanted to add that or share that I started in the industry about 5 months ago when I first entered Magic as a developer advocate. And I'll talk about Magic. Magic has just started out building its developer community. And I feel like you all mentioned a lot of really good points about what kind of members would come into the community. Like they will be really into the whole tribalism and or the vision of the technology. And as of now, what we're doing is just coordinate. We're building the community kind of event based. So we are providing as much resources to them to learn more about the blockchain industry. And yeah, that's all I just wanted to share. And then for Blockchain Ladies Club, it's kind of a completely different community. It's a community of practice where ladies or those who identify as ladies can come in and learn more about blockchain industry. So it's kind of different from, it's definitely different from a purely blockchain led community like Conflux. But yeah, I can share more about that later if y'all want to hear.
Thank you, ladies. That was awesome. So I'm just checking on the time. We have about 10 minutes for people to ask questions. So if anyone wants to put out a question to our panelists or to each other.
I wanted to ask Mary Chris on development. Can you talk a little bit about what makes for developers to get into the space? I think it's a great opportunity for people to learn new skills and what is not even magic, but what have you seen in the space happening in the past year in the development space and bring people into blockchain development, because I think that's a really interesting area right now.
Yeah. So I really love that topic of that's actually one of my goals for my Instagram account, which is to help bring developers developing in the Web 2.0 space, which is pretty much what the internet is right now, into the Web 3.0, which is the future of internet, which is all about decentralization of applications. And what I've seen is that more and more tech influencers are falling down the rabbit hole and advocating for cryptocurrencies or blockchain networks that they really care about and value. So I see it spreading to all developers of all backgrounds. And I think that, like, for example, I'm currently attending the ETH Global Hackathon. And a lot of the people who are attending the hackathon are new to the space, and they're like, "Hey, I'm new. I don't know if I can build anything." So that people are coming into this, or developers for Web 2.0 are coming into the space and are seeing that there's a lot of other people who are new, and also the documentation for a lot of the cryptocurrencies or networks aren't very beginner friendly. So what I see happening is tech advocates are going to learn more about it and make the information more easily digestible to others. So yeah, that's just one thing I observed recently. And I observed that developers love those simple or love it when people just simplify, you know, blockchain or crypto concepts. So yeah.
Yeah. We don't have a developer advocate, Mary Chris, so maybe we're going to try and steal you away from that.
You make it very tempting, honestly. I'm all about like presentations and delivering meaningful content in a storytelling way. And honestly, I'm just so amazed.
Max, do you have a question?
Yeah.
I was gonna say this was absolutely wonderful to attend, and thank you so much for inviting me along to join. I'm looking after the community at a DeFi project that's kind of bridging CeFi to DeFi. And I kind of joined very recently, so I got up to speed relatively quickly over the year. And my biggest thing is I'm trying to think of the best way to activate a community that, in my opinion, is kind of very equally split between an institutional user base with lots of stakeholders from that front, but also targeting kind of more of, I guess, like a retail kind of base. So combining like the speculation elements and kind of tempering expectations, but also kind of managing to amplify kind of the utility aspects of our particular protocol, which is running on the Ethereum network. And kind of there were a lot of pieces in there. I know, for me, storytelling is like the number, like I'm a singer-songwriter. So for me, telling the story is like the first place you start. And then you kind of go from there. But I wondered if you had any tips or help that you would recommend for someone sort of coming to this and trying to help build the hype without hyping.
Mm-hmm. Who wants to take that one? Anybody? I can take it if no.
Yeah, you can go. Well, funny enough, Max and I kind of know each other, so I didn't know that Max is actually going to be here. So it's nice. That's how a small world. The crypto space, you get to know a lot of people, and a lot of people work for other projects, and you work together. That's another thing. It's a great collaborative. Mm-hmm. All projects do partnerships because you build dApps, build on chains, and you get to know each other. So yeah, I didn't know, Max, you were going to be here. That's exciting.
Yeah, and you guys did an amazing presentation. So
thank you.
It was great. It was really wonderful.
Kim, you have suggestions for Max?
I think with more of like a brand marketing lens and then a community lens. So I can start it off, and then maybe Mary Chris and Camilla can add to it. But I wonder if, because we have a little bit of the same problem where you have almost two messages to tell or two stories to tell. One of our stories is we can get you into China, right, in a regulatory compliant way, and you can sell your token on OKX or another Chinese exchange, but not everybody wants that. So our other story is this is our technology. So for you, I would probably say I would go back to your messaging and make sure that you have messaging that is like coherent and cohesive, but that maybe there's a nuance for the institutional side or for the CeFi side, and then for like the retail investor for the DeFi side, maybe that message is slightly different. And I think that the communities probably exist in or gravitate towards slightly different social channels. So you might be able to tease them apart that way and target message through the specific social channels that they work on. Other than that, I don't know. I would probably toss this to Camilla.
Well, you guys have a really strong technical team, and that's one of the, I think, bringing that to, again, goes back to your people that invest in the token or stakeholders, right? So having that, knowing that, providing that transparency to the community, getting the team out there, I think is really important. Mm-hmm. And I know I've been telling your founder to do that, to get out there all the time.
Max, are you with Alchemy?
Yes.
That was so funny because I keep on saying to the team, I'm like, guys, it'd be really cool if we could get kind of Ryan right in front of everyone and like do a kind of like a podcast, or like even do it like I come from a Twitch and Discord background, so I'm like, we could do that, and then we could get them on Clubhouse, and everyone's like, calm down, man, small steps. Don't want to do everything instantly. So
just to share, Camilla's partner is the founder of Alchemy. So just to like show you what a small world it is, where everybody's kind of connected. Yeah,
it's amazing. And like it's kind of, for me, you've got to remember, so this is kind of my first role in a crypto startup, and it's crazy because I haven't met anyone in person yet. But I come from I'm so used to kind of doing all the socializing side of things with people and kind of being in a room. So it's so surreal.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Javed, you had a question on the chat. Did you want to ask that, Maricris? Are you able to unmute?
Oh.
Yes. Oh yeah. To finally. Yeah, I was just kind of curious if Maricris could share what she does as a developer advocate. I know we're almost at the end of time.
Oh, yeah. As a developer advocate, I have a spiel. So I do 3 things. I connect, create content, and what was the last one? Close. So I connect with developers by answering their questions on our Discourse forum, or having interviews with them, customer interviews. And then I create content around the issues that they're facing with our technology. And then at the end of the day, I close the loop, the feedback loop. So I grab any insightful feedback that I can to improve our product and bring it back to our team. So I connect with developers, create content, and close the loop.
That's community builder.
Yeah.
Yes. So
I think we're all looking forward to having in-person events again, and that may help Max with kind of your challenge, where you can have different events that are more targeted towards your communities. Yeah, we can't wait for in-person events again.
So I want to be conscious of time. I think we have 1 more minute. You guys are all members of the CMX Slack, right? Kimberly, Camilla, have you signed up? Okay.
For some reason I can't get in. I don't know why. Well, I'll email you.
Yeah. But and you keep in touch with the panelists. If you have other questions, I do have a question. I want to help create more Ethereum engineers, whatever, developers. I'll deal with that separately. Claire, do you have any questions, comments?
No questions. I want to echo what everyone else has said, that this has been super, super informative. Really loved the clear explanations from everybody who's explained stuff today. It's been really, really helpful. And yes, very well done. So thank you so much to all of you who've shared your wisdom.
So
thanks for attending.
We are at time, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time because you guys probably have to go to other meetings. Kimberly, Camilla, Maricris, thank you so much for volunteering to be panelists today and for allowing us to learn from you. Juan, Javed, Max, and Katie, thanks for joining. And next month, we're going to talk about software for community platforms. So join us. See you on
Awesome. Thank you.
Good.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.